Let's have a discussion about voiding accounts payable checks and invoices. As checks are produced by the system or written by the user and entered into the system, certain information is stored regarding the invoice and the payment check. This information can be used to automatically void the invoice and/or the check. To access these options, we go to the Accounts Payable menu and select Void Checks. Here we have a screen which shows us a list of all the check voids that have been currently entered into the system and not yet posted or processed.
In order to void a check, click the Add button and the following screen will come into view.
Here we can select the name or number of the vendor whose check we wish to void. The system will then fill the pull-down check number list box with the numbers of checks which have been written to this vendor. From the list, select the number of the check you wish to void. If the same check number appears for this vendor multiple times, select the appropriate check date in this box to further specify which check you wish to void. Once we've selected the check number, the system will search both the Accounts Payable History file and the General Ledger Transaction file for any occurrences of this check number. The results will be displayed in the two list boxes. If both the top list, which contains the Accounts Payable History file information, and the bottom list, which contains the General Ledger Transaction file information, come up with the same dollar amount totals, then the system has found enough information for us to void our check. We then have the option of voiding both the check and the invoice, which means the invoice will be reversed as though it was never entered, and the check will be reversed as though it was never written. Or the option of voiding only the check and resetting the invoice to an open status so it can be selected for payment at a later date. Or the option of voiding both the check and the invoice and placing an unposted copy of the invoice into an invoice batch for later editing and processing. Select whichever of these void methods you prefer and click the OK button. The system will then display a representation of our check void as a line item in the list box on the screen. In order to process or post our check void, we click on the Post Voided Checks button. The system will ask what fiscal period we choose to post our voids to. This will default to the current fiscal period, but we may change it to any valid open fiscal period. We then click on the Proceed button, and the system will reverse our check and/or the invoice from the system. Posting reports will be printed, and the system will give us one last chance to go through our posting reports and make sure they contain the correct information. We can then either click the Finish button to conclude the posting, or click the Undo button to set the data back to the state it was in before we pressed the Post button. You noticed that among the void method options was the option to void the invoice. There may be times when you want to void an invoice that has not yet been paid. Of course, this isn't accomplished through the Void Checks menu option, but through its neighbor, the Void Invoices option. Here we see a list of all the invoices that have been posted but not yet paid. Simply tag any number of invoices and click the Post Tagged Invoices button. The system will first ask for a brief reason for the void, and will ask you if you want to put a copy of the voided invoice into an invoice batch. This will act the same way as the check voiding program we just discussed. When we click Proceed, the system will void the tagged invoices and, optionally, place a copy of these invoices into the invoice batch system for editing and reposting. This concludes this training session regarding accounts payable check and invoice voiding.